get here? Right? How'd I get here?
How did I get here podcast?
How did I get here? How did I get here podcast?
How'd I get here?
How did I get here? How'd I get here podcast? Bam!
All right, welcome to another episode of the How'd I Get Here podcast, the podcast for positivity, progression, and helping us find our own path. I am sitting here with Samantha Ramsdell, singer, comedian, and I wrote down TikTok famous, but everywhere I look, it says TikTok sensation. So I feel like I have to say that.
Sensational. It's pretty sensational.
So how are you doing, Sam?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm glad we finally got to like link up. When we tried to do this, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, and you hit me up and you're like, hey, I've got something big going on. And then I looked and you were on the Ellen show. I was like, yeah, I probably would have ditched me for Ellen too, to be honest.
I was like, hey, something came up. I can't really say what it is, but yeah. Yes, that was crazy.
Yeah, I was like, you know what? On the bright side, me and Ellen are like on the same like wavelength, so I'll take it.
That's the kindness thing. Yeah, totally.
Oh man. All right, cool. So we're gonna get things started here. And I'll fill our viewers / listeners in on why we're sitting here with you. Before we start, you know, I like to start every interview with who are you? So I'll ask you that and then go from there.
Well, first off, I'm obviously sensational, of course. I mean, if that's what all the articles are saying. No, I'm just kidding. So I know, it's funny because it's like, what is my definition? Because sometimes I feel like, I am trying to like throw so many things at the wall and see what sticks, but I would like to think of myself as a comedian and performer and singer, content creator, and yeah, I would love to, obviously, of course, do this full time and I'd love to, if I had to use one word, I'd say creator, because in that way I create comedy, I create music, I create weird shit. We'll just ask. I'm like, can I swear? I'm assuming
Absolutely.
It's okay if I,
yes, absolutely. Talk your shit.
Thank God.
Oh man, no, that's great. So, everything you just said, comedian, performer, creator, those are all forms of art, and art is a way of expressing yourself. I think through your life, you've had to find many ways to express yourself for certain reasons, which we'll dive into. But before we get there, define art. What does art mean to you?
Ooh, good question. Art, it's like, for me, it's like an expression of the soul. Like, I feel like that's like a very meta like definition, but it's like however you express yourself, like whether it is, stuffing a sandwich in your mouth, or, or, painting or music or whatever it is, it's normally, for me, I would define like an expression of, your true self in a way.
I like that. So now that we're here, we've gotten out, you're a comedian, you are a singer, but the way I found you, I think it was like January, February.
Yep.
We're putting, I don't remember if it was Oreos or a sandwich in your mouth. And I was like, this girl has a massive mouth. And I was like, this has got to be fake. And I just started scrolling and I'm like, this is crazy. And I was like, that's her real, like, she's had to have some, I'm like, no, that's like her legit mouth. So then I followed you and then I was like, wait, she's in New Haven and she's just a normal person. So speak about how, and before I get into that, I'm glad I got that out of the way, because it's like, it's almost like that middle school thing when like someone in health class says like vagina or penis and then you laugh. Right. And it's like, she has a big mouth, like, okay, we get it, but there's so much more to you than like, you know what I mean? So talk about how you like went viral off of that, and there's definitely more to you than more to your story than that.
Yeah. So, of course, pre-COVID, trying to be a performer. So actually, technically, I live in Stamford. I
Okay.
live in Stamford technically, but close enough, whatever, same thing. But, so it was like, close to New York City. I mean, pre-COVID, I was going into New York City like 5, 6 nights a week, literally going to open mics, taking courses, like singing lessons, comedy classes, like doing any type of like cabaret shows, or I was in a band. So I was really like, I was trying to do it. Like I was trying, like my real goal was always like, my dream was like to be on Broadway.
Mm.
Like that was like my goal, like since I was a little girl. But really I've just always wanted to perform. So when COVID happened and it was like, and you really, especially like after the first couple weeks, it was like, all right, and I had a show. I had my first one woman show that I had written and been working on for like the last 2 years on May 1st. And I remember it was like, it'll happen. Like, there's no way it'll last till May. And then it really was like end of April that I was like, we're going to be here a while, it was like, and it was a, like, for me, I hadn't really like made it. I mean, I don't even think I really had started even posting on TikTok yet. I had maybe 10,000 followers on Instagram just because I was posting some of my music stuff and stuff like that. But I was like, what am I going to do? Like, I really, I have even videos that I posted of like me, like crying. Cause I'm like, my career's like, I'm never going to make it now. Like, like, what am I going to do? So of course TikTok was blowing up at the time. So I was like, all right, well, the one thing I was like, well, everyone else, the one thing is that everybody's in the same shoes. So like people who are on Broadway, like some of my favorite comedians, like we're all stuck. And it's like, it kind of leveled the playing field. Cause it's like, all of a sudden, like we only all had like social media and the internet, So it was like, well, now's my time. Like if I really want to show myself, like now I should do it like right now and like pull up my big girl panties and like start like, making some stuff on the internet. So I just started, posting on TikTok. And of course, like, I'm like 31 and I'm like, okay, these like 12-year-olds on TikTok. I'm like, okay, what do I do? So I started just like trying a bunch of stuff. I'd do like singing videos and, of course, like one comedian that I've always looked up to is Jim Carrey. Like he is like one of my favorite comedians of all time. And I always think of him like, alrighty then, and just doing these crazy facial expressions. So I'd start to do some of these videos where I'm like, making these crazy faces. And of course, the 12-year-olds are like, what is wrong with your face? It was like, and like, of course, like I always knew I had a big mouth, of course. Right. But it was like, I didn't think it was like that big until people really were like, no, like, it looks like something's wrong with you. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, I get it. Great. But I just kind of leaned into it. And the more that I leaned into it and was like, screw it, like I have a big mouth. Like my first video that went viral, I literally was like, someone had commented and was like, do you get insecure about your mouth? And I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm just gonna let my mouth shine. Like it's part of me, like whatever. And it got like 20 million views. And I was like, oh, like people like this, And so I ran with it. And now, I mean, those are the videos, of course, the videos that go viral, the ones of me shoving donuts in my mouth and stuff. Right. What happened though, is the people who see those videos then hopefully come to my page and see the other stuff I create, which is, those are the best messages when it was like, I saw the video of your mouth, but I stayed for the comedy and the singing and all the other antics.
And you're like the total package, which is why it's so perfect,
Well, thank you. I mean, it's funny. But it was like, I've always wanted to, like have my own like one woman show. And I feel like it's funny, like how Instagram and TikTok has almost been like my one woman show. Like I do it on social media, because it's like, it allows me to do the comedy and I can post singing or, interact with my audience. It's like, oh, this is kind of like, I'm able to do it here in a way.
Right. So you kind of alluded to it a couple minutes ago. You're like, obviously I've had a big mouth my whole life. So like as a kid, what was that like? Because I know like, especially nowadays, kids getting bullied is such a topic that people cover and talk about. And I'm sure you dealt with it as a child. So what was that like dealing with that as a kid?
Yeah, well, I think, the coolest. I feel like when I feel like some of the roughest years for me, which were like middle school, pre-middle, it was like were the years before middle school, like 10 to like 13, because you're like so insecure, and it's like you're going through puberty, and it's just like I feel like those were like the roughest years. And it's really cool when I get like these messages from like an 11-year-old girl who's like, oh my God, your videos give me confidence and like make
Right.
me feel like something that's, maybe that I'm insecure about, like I can make as my superpower. And, those are like the best match. I'm like, because those are the girls that, when I was, again, like getting bullied for having, a big mouth, which is always been something I've always been really self-conscious about, obviously. And being called, I mean, like literally like anything with like a big, like any like animal, like pitbull, like frog, it's like I was pretty much called everything in the book. But it was like, I obviously growing up was like, I know it makes me look like kind of a crazy person, but I didn't know the potential that it had. And I kind of have this joke now in my comedy where it's like, I found my mouth potential, it was like, I found the potential that it can really help, like draw in and kind of like make this full circle of like the comedy and the music. And because obviously, it's
Right.
like the music and comedy comes out of my mouth and it just like kind of works, which is funny. I just never would have thought of that until it just happened.
So
So
what
crazy.
were some coping mechanisms that you used as a kid, to deal with some of that bullying and some of that, insecurity?
Well, it's so funny. Like growing up was like my entire life, all I wanted to do was be on stage. And I remember like I would just create. Like that was when I was in a bad mood or like I was feeling like I was getting bullied. All I did was like lean into singing or like go up my room and listen to music and sing or go, or dance. Cause like growing up, again, like I was, singing as often as I could, like going to dance classes. I mean, it was like singing the national anthem wherever I could, doing all these local community theater shows. So, that was always in the back of my mind. It's like, well, one day I'm going to be on Broadway and these fuckers are going to wish that they were nice to me. And if you've like followed my journey, I actually gave it up for a while. I mean, when I was 17, I quit everything because pretty much being from a small town in Maine, it was like, my dreams were pretty much crushed because it was like my parents were like, it's not gonna happen. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, just go to New York City and be on Broadway. It was like wasn't a realistic thing.
Yeah.
So I quit singing. I quit performing when I was 17. Went and got a business degree. Went and got a full-time corporate job in sales. And it wasn't until I was 29, so 2 years ago, that actually it's probably like 3 years ago, because it was like 28 when I had like my like come to Jesus moment, when I literally was like 50 pounds overweight. I was smoking like a pack of cigarettes a day. I was on like 3 different antidepressants. I was drinking every night. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, I was like, my parents don't like own me anymore. And like, here I am working this job that like is literally just like driving me into the ground, just like making me, I have everything that I was supposed to have that my parents told me that would make me happy, having the full-time job and like, having the apartment, that I own and all that. And it was like, so where is that? Like, where's the happiness? And I was like, I finally just started singing again. I randomly just started taking singing lessons at 28, even though I was like, there's no way anything's going to happen from this. Like, I'm just going to do it to have fun and like, just to bring back some music into my life. So I started doing singing lessons, and immediately I was like, why did I ever stop doing this? And then it just like, then I started going to open mics, then I joined a band, then I started doing comedy. And then, so this is all literally, I started to try to be a performer in the last 3 years, really started to blow up on TikTok since like probably like fall of last year. So it's all like, so it really is like one of these like, if you had told me 4 years ago what I'm doing now, I would have been like, you are absolutely out of your mind. Like, there's no way. There's no way.
Oh man. So what advice would you give to anyone, young or old, dream chasing or with, insecurity to keep chasing that dream?
So I think one of the best things that I learned to do over the last couple of years, I mean, and even, really I've been focusing on the last year too, is just like learning how to listen to my own voice, because I feel like there's so much like, and also like learning, like listening to like who you take advice from, you know, it was like, why did I take advice from that person? They're miserable. You know, it's like, why did I listen to them? It's like, the more I started to listen to myself and be like, and I started to get these voices of like, start singing again, you know, like maybe it's, you know, what made you happy when you were little? Singing, music. And I was like, I'm not doing any of that, you know? And it was like, of course, there's the ego that's always going to be like, you suck, don't do it. But if there's still that voice that's like, no, try it, it's there for a reason, you know, like it's, so you've got to listen to it. And I think more than anything over the last year, like COVID has taught us, like, we're not promised tomorrow. Like, we have no idea. Like, you know, it's like, if anything, like, you've just got to do what makes you happy. And I know, obviously, you know, it's easier said than done, of course, but it's like, we've only got this one life. Like, why are we not doing what we love and like doing, you know? So I think that's probably,
I love that. You even like just sparked some like excitement with me in soccer. I know anyone watching this. So like when I stopped playing, everyone was like, "You're not done," and I'm like, "No, like I'm done. It's wrapping." Like I started coaching, and everyone's like, "You're not done," and I'll just hearing you say that's like flickering a light bulb in my head. But you do a lot of question and answers and like cute and things like that on your Instagram. First question dealing with that, how do you deal with the crazy, outrageous, I'll say it's not even borderline, inappropriate questions that's like, wow, someone really had the balls to ask that?
It's like, part of it is also like, it's great content. Like some of it, it's like, it's hilarious. So
Right.
like, I kind of like lean into it and sometimes like enable people to do it because, you know, I like repost and I'm like, look at this idiot. But you know, it's just, I've always just learned like, it's part of the territory. Like that's just, and there's like this new wave of like people, especially like on TikTok. If you're on TikTok, it's like the comments and become too like part of it. Like people go to the video and the first thing they'll go is to the comments to see who has the funniest comment, you know? So it's kind of like part of it. And I also, you know, when people ask stupid questions, it's like, you know, or even like sometimes I do like the secrets. It's like, all right, are people really like making this up? Like, do they really like want to ask that or like, you know, do that? Or are they just doing it for kind of like, you know, the attention of it or, you know, yeah, I mean, basically the attention that I give it, because then when it's so outlandish, it's like, all right, I gotta respond and post this because it's like too good not to. But you know, again, it's kind of like just part of the territory, just some
Right.
regard.
So is there anything you won't, or like, have you failed trying to eat anything, or is there anything that like where?
Well, you know, I wouldn't say there's like a fail. I mean, sometimes I try things and I'm like, oh, this didn't work out. Like there was one where I tried a Taco Bell burrito.
Okay.
And I've never actually even had a Taco Bell burrito. So, but people are like, try a Taco Bell burrito. But they're like all refried beans. Like the inside is like beans. So that's like hard to like fit. So like I go to fit it and just like explodes beans. And I was like, that didn't work. You know, so it was like more just like sometimes like, you know, so it just when it's too soft, you know, just like, you know, it just doesn't work. So it's like, I think that's probably the one that recently I was like, oh, that didn't work out, you know. But most of the stuff, like I can look at things now, you know, it's funny, like that's how I think. I'm like, oh, I could probably fit that in my mouth. You know, it's like I literally am like constantly like looking for foods I can fit in my mouth. Because it's like now I like kind of, you know, I've done it enough that I'm like,
Right.
I feel like I can do that, you know. Yeah.
I would love to see you on Hot Ones.
On what?
And so it's a show on I think it's Complex, and I'm probably
Okay.
but the guy Jeremy Evans, he does 10 wings and they all progressively get hotter.
Is this on YouTube? It's
So
you
he
said
does it, yeah, he does it on it's all on YouTube.
okay, I was gonna say, I think I might have seen this on YouTube.
And more so just to see your reactions, because as things get hotter, everyone's reactions are just like off the chains. And I know you already make the faces.
Yes.
So that we have to manifest that and get you on that show.
Totally. Well, I love doing that. Like I've started to do some of that too, where like I love trying. Like I'm really like there's nothing like I won't eat or try, especially when it comes to food. So like, I've done like when I've been like send me, people like send me like tell me crazy stuff to eat or try. And I was thinking of that. It was like I'm not really like a spicy person, but even just like the reaction of it, I think it would be very funny. So I'll have to maybe see if I can sneak on there somehow.
So March is National Women's Month. So, and obviously you're very successful, you're an entrepreneur, you're a go-getter. So how has your journey, how has can your platform help, inspire or just help uplift women?
Well, it's funny. I was just responding to someone who had sent me a really nice message about if you watch my stories too, I talk a lot about my mental health struggles.
Mhm.
And I try obviously my page on Instagram and even TikTok, a lot of it is comedy and me being, doing stupid shit and whatever, a little bit of singing here and there and all this craziness. But I also do try to slip in tips on like things that I'm doing or like things that I'm like, here's something that I struggled with today and try and show like that authentic side. And even, especially as I know that like there are young kids that do watch my stuff. And I think, so there is a part of me that's like, trying to be cognizant of that when I post stuff. It's like, it's like, I don't know if I'll ever get to the point where I'm starting to like shove hot dogs in my mouth, because there's gotta be a limit that I draw a line in the sand. Like, I don't know, but I say that and one day I get really desperate, who knows? But, so I try to put in like things, on my stories, I do my gratitude every morning. And like, for me, because doing gratitude every morning has been huge for my mental health. It's like one of the best things I've done. So I try and do that and put that in my stories. Every morning I post my gratitude and things that I'm before, because that's helped me, again, with my anxiety and just especially over the last year. And, making sure again that it's like everything that happens, I'm like, all of this stuff, I'm just like, I say it a million times a day, like how grateful I am for everything. So I feel like, I also want people and women who go to my page to see that I'm, number one, I'm a real person who has struggles like everyone else. And here are some of the things that I do and try and still be that like real, authentic person that I've always tried to be. And that's, and that's what I love to follow too. Like, I don't want to see these picture perfect, like women who have everything perfect in their lives. It's like, no, because that's not realistic, like no one's like that. So I do try and show kind of all sides, to everything.
Yeah, no, I like that. And one thing I can appreciate about you, you kept saying authentic, and like the same person that I'm getting in this interview is the same person that I see like online and like this is you. And I think from what I can grasp, there's a sense of free will or freedom that you can finally be yourself.
Totally.
And
100%.
and
Yeah.
speak to that, just the ability to be yourself and how you got the confidence to, finally, get over that anxiety and say like, here I am, take it or leave it.
Yeah, what's funny is like, I've talked before actually on Instagram about doing things that scare me. And like, and that was even something that, especially like when I was going, and doing this journey and kind of sharing, like, doing all the performing stuff and getting, like pre-shows and like how I deal with nerves and how I deal with pressure and my own insecurities I still have every day. And, it's just funny how, I've tried to like really show, again, that I have that side to me. And it's like, I don't know, it's tough because I really, I've always like had this part of me, but I feel like when I started doing like little things like going to singing lessons and then going to open mics, and I'm like, ooh, it's like first, like even just like taking singing lessons was like, oh my God, that's so scary. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this. And then I did, I'm like, ooh, that felt, I was like, that was awesome. Then I was like, go to open mic. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so scared. And then I do it. I'm like, ooh, I love that. It was like, so it was like slowly doing things. And then I'd put out some videos where it was like, oh my God, people are going to think I'm fucking crazy. And
Yeah.
like, I put it out and then people are like, oh my God, this is hilarious. I'm like, oh, good, So I think I just slowly started to like come out of my shell and be like, oh, people accept me being myself. it's funny how society can kind of try and fit everybody into this mold and try and tell you what's normal and not normal.
Yep.
So of course we try and do that. But it was like, you know, every time it was like little by little, I'm like, all right, show this weird, wacky side of me, show this and it, you know, and it was just cool to get, you know, people engaged with it and also relate to it.
Right. And one of my favorite comedians or like all around people is Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
And on his Netflix documentary, the one that kind of talks about like when he got caught up cheating and blah blah and all that stuff, he says a quote, it's when you're okay with being flawed, you're okay with being yourself.
Yes.
And that's kind of like makes me think about like literally what you're saying right now, you know?
Yeah, totally. Well, you know, and I think everyone, like, no one's perfect. You know, it's like, it's just the idea that it's like everyone has flaws. Everyone has something that they're really insecure about, or multiple things they're insecure about. And it's like, if we all just like realize that. And, you know, and obviously so that's why I try too with my mouth. It's like, it is still something that like I still get, you know, if you go on and look on the comments in my videos, like I still get called crazy names and get crazy DMs about how ugly and disgusting I am. But it's like, I also know that like, you know, I also get these great messages that are like, you've made me feel like I can be myself. And I would rather, like, what's that other quote too? It's like I would rather get criticized for being who I am than like praised for who I'm not. You know, it's something like that. You know that quote? You know, it's something like that. I forget how it goes, but it's something like that. Like, I'd rather like be myself. Like, oh, someone doesn't like me because I'm myself. Like, that sucks for you.
Yeah.
You know? It's like, at least I'm not getting praised for being someone that I'm not, you know, that I'm trying to be that I'm not, I guess.
I when I was scrolling like through your page, I was like, oh my God, she's got a TLC episode. Like, this is so
Gotcha.
so dope. And then I watched it and like for a second I was like, damn, she got me. But that was hilarious. That was
one of my best parts. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we know where you came up. Like, talk about that, because that was hilarious.
That was, you know, what's so funny? That was like when I first, that was like almost like my coming out of like my big mouth video, because I had started doing a lot of videos on TikTok of like, okay, I have a big mouth, you know,
Right.
and I was like, all right, how do I take this? And like, you know, if that was when I was starting to be like, if I'm gonna, like, I'm just gonna go head first and just own it and be like, you know, it's like, yeah, I do. And it's something that makes me unique and do it in a comical way. And, you know, it was funny. I can't even remember how I got the idea, but that was also one of them that I was like, people are going to think I'm crazy. Like, I remember being like, people are going to think this is insane. You know, when I first did, I was like, I almost didn't post it because I was like, you know, and those videos always do the best. The ones that I'm like, oh God, people are going to think I'm nuts. You know, those ones always end up doing the best. But yeah, it was just, that was when I was fully embracing it. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. Like, because everyone, like literally my top asked question is, do you have a condition? And literally one of the top Google like responses is literally Sam Ramsdell condition ? Like that's the top, because it's true. Like even like your reaction, you're like, something had to have happened to you.
Right.
You know, it's like, so, you know, it's like, I'm just going to lean into this and just be like, yes, you know, and also, you know, it's just, it ended up, now it's like some of the best parts of like my comedy. Like I have like a whole stand-up bit like surrounded around the idea that I have this condition. So it's, you know, that is some of my, like, I look back and I'm like, that's pretty funny. And it is like, it looks pretty good, right?
No, absolutely. I was watching it and like, and then when you finally went, I was like, that was a good one. So how about your work-life balance? Because one thing that I could speak to is just like burnout is a real thing. And like I just said, this is you. Like, this is genuinely who you are. And now, like you were telling me earlier, social media is everywhere, but it's also a huge part of your life. Now that you're doing this and you still work, speak to like, you know, trying not to get burnt out in that work-life balance.
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously right now still, until I'm trying to like monetize this performing, creating, you know,
Right.
new career that I have. So I do still work full time. And, I really struggle with that too. And, this is something I was just talking to my therapist about, where it's like, again, being grateful, it's like a lot of times, like, even though I'm not crazy about my job and it's not what I want to do. And, it pays the bills and I have great benefits. I have health insurance. So I'm like, I'm still very grateful for it. It's given me the support to go after this dream. And I use a lot, of kind of the content, and like I get a lot of ideas from my day job. Like a lot of that will inspire me and fuel like some of the content that I create. And, there are some days when it's like 5:30, I come home and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so tired. But like doing comedy and like creating gives me energy. And like if I'm having a bad day, I just like want to go on Instagram and be like, all right, tell me all your weirdest secrets. Like let's just laugh, like because that's what I like when I'm having a bad day, or like, I'm like, oh, like, all right, it's time to giggle a little bit, like, so that's just what I lean into. And so I don't even really think of it. Like sometimes like some of the stuff, like, like I hate really editing videos, like some like the editing and some of the more like back end work that I have to do. It's like, I don't, I just want to create and create and create.
Yeah.
But it's just part of it. And, again, I'm like, I got to be so grateful for my day job. It supported me to get me here. And when it's ready, to let it go, it'll happen. But I'm grateful for it. And again, it's like this, a lot of the times it doesn't really feel like work,
No, and that's what I was literally saying over the weekend, because I recorded an episode over the weekend. So when this is no longer fun, when I don't enjoy or look forward to like recording an episode or putting an episode out, that's when I'll know like, all right,
Totally.
it's time to like keep it or move on, So one of my life goals is to do just one stand-up set, whether it's like 5 minutes or 15 minutes. But my worry is like, I think I'm funny. Everybody thinks they're funny until you get in front of people and they think you're corny.
Yeah.
So how do you deal with that? Like, is this funny? Is it corny? Do I just say it? Like,
I question myself every day. No, I'm like, am I funny? Like I literally, I'm like, I will go over videos and I'll go to like my friends and be like, is this funny? Like, I can't tell like if I'm like losing it or, and in any class I've taken, like if you think it's funny, other people are going to think it's funny.
Yeah.
Most of the time, what it is like the delivery of it. And it's the confidence. Like a lot of times when newer comics are going up, I mean, what's the number one fear in the world? Speaking in front of people. Like comics are literally doing probably like the scariest thing. You're talking
right
in front of a large group of people. And most of the time you're talking about either things that have like, caused trauma in your life, or like you're talking about like things that are really, obviously things that you've created and you've written, but then things that are maybe sensitive topics, or like, a lot of times it's like self-deprecating or whatever. And when no one laughs, it's like, dagger in the heart. But so I think it's just, and every like comedy or comedian that's ever lived will tell you, like, you always bomb the first time, because it's like the rite of passage. It's like, you have to bomb like multiple times in order to get good at, because, it's like doing that it is an art, and it's something that you just need to practice. So you just got to do it. You just got to do it. And if you're a reader, or you could also do like Audible, the Comedy Bible.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good book, and kind of getting you like prepared for like a 5-minute set that'll walk you through if you ever, or like, the other thing is taking like an improv class too. That'll also like get you this way. Yeah.
I'll keep all that in mind whenever I get over my fear. So 5 years from now, so like you said, 4 years ago, somebody would have told you you're doing this, you'd have been like, no, you're crazy. So I'm big into manifestation and all that good stuff. So 5 years from now, where do you want to be, or where will you be?
Yes. So the goal is to have like my one woman show, and like be able to, I mean, I would love to be able to like do a tour, or do, like have it be because I do love, obviously I love social media, and that's been, obviously my thing due to COVID, but I love performing live. Like there's no better feeling in the entire world than being in front of a live audience and being able to perform. So that would be, to like travel around the country or travel around the world and be able to do a one-woman show where I can sing, do comedy and interact. So it's like a whole experience. And maybe shove something in my mouth. Who knows?
I went to I want to say Glasgow, Scotland. Have you ever heard of the Fringe Festival?
You know, what is that song? It's a comedy festival, right?
It's a one comedy festival every month, every year in July. And I could see you up there because some of the acts were, like you were saying, interactive and stuff like that. And you know, whenever COVID's done and things open up, yes, we'll make it happen.
Yes. Sure.
No, I think that's it from me. One last question. Because you have so many titles, what do you want to be remembered as, or what do you want to be known as? What do you want your legacy to be?
It's hard for me to not make this a joke.
Please do. Please do. Please.
It's like so many jokes go flying through my head. Well, you know, it's like my boyfriend asked me the other day, he had asked me the same question. He's like, what do you want to be known? Like, what do you want to leave behind? And I'm like, I just want everyone to think that I just like have really great tits. He's like, what? You know, like I've always said, like always wanted to inspire people, you know, and I know I said creator, but it's like to create and just like inspire. Like I love when I get stories that are like, oh my God, like, you know, I saw your story and I'd always wanted to do X, Y, and Z, to be a singer, to play guitar, whatever it is, you know, and I watched you and I did it because, you know, I saw that you did it and I took that risk too. And those, you know, again, are some of the best DM, you know, and the messages that I get too. It's like, oh my God, wow, like I had that kind of impact on someone. So, you know, to keep it like as, you know, a normal answer.
I mean, the first answer was great.
Yeah, either one. I mean, great tits or like inspiring people, whatever.
No, absolutely. I hear you. So I mean, I don't know if it feels like it for you, but we've been talking for like 35 excuse me, I'm choking. 35 minutes, and it always seems to fly by when it's a great conversation. So I always give my guests 15 seconds of fame. I haven't made it yet, but I can't wait to be like, look at that camera, that camera, that camera. But looking at your camera, it doesn't have to be anything about what we've talked about. This is your 15 seconds of fame to talk your shit, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, this is probably so corny and like so cheesy and like for me to end it this way, but it's like, I really do hope that like if you know, are watching this and you have something that you've always wanted to do, you've always wanted to go after, you've always wanted to try, like take this as a sign to do it and take some sort of action, whether it's taking the singing lesson or sign up for the dance class or sign up for the open mic or an improv class or, you know, whatever it may be, whatever it is. I hope maybe take this as a sign and know that like if there's something that like you're insecure about or something that makes you different, that makes you unique, like lean into that, because that is what makes you special and what makes you different. That's what makes this world so beautiful, is having people that aren't perfect. So lean into it and just use it to your advantage. I mean, who knows? Like your biggest insecurity could be your biggest asset and biggest money maker. You just never know. All right. So lean into it. And always like if people have like questions, if you know, especially like I always say, like my DMs are always open as long as you're not going to ask me like how many dicks I can stick in my mouth. You know, if you have questions, you know, on comedy, getting started chatting also. So, you know, make sure to, you know, come say hi or DM me if you have questions on that too. Always happy to chat with people.
And definitely I can vouch for that, because I hit her up and not even 5 minutes later she responded like, hey, I would love to do this. So her DMs, you know, she's open. As you guys can see, she's a down-to-earth, great, funny, amazing woman. So I appreciate you, and that's a wrap on another episode.
Yay, thank you so much for having me. That was fun.
No doubt. Let's